the abolition of commissions in the financial advice or in the wealth space has been, the biggest game changer across the board. We've been working in this industry over decades to try and move it towards becoming an industry, into a profession, and conflicts of interest like that, just there's no place for them. And I think really the other huge change, which, has happened in the last decade, is the change to education standards. And I understand that there are some people that have been around the industry for a long, long time that had their noses really put out of joint. Thankfully, I had to go back to school, but it was only to do an ethics course, a bridging course, or a bridging subject. But I think they're the two real key changes. Obviously, the Royal Commission into the banking sector some years ago also had wide-ranging impacts on the industry. We've made a huge amount of progress. I think, some would argue we've now probably gone, from a regulatory point of view, maybe we've gone a bit too far, but I'm still overall very supportive of the fact that, that you can't no longer become an advisor after doing a 6-week course and pretty much be put in front of clients. You've got to have a degree, you've got to have, other recognised post-grad designations. I think ultimately, if we're going to be the trusted advisor of a client that sits next to the lawyer and the accountant, well, why shouldn't we be as educated?
It feels like now, though, it's like the barriers, I wouldn't say are too high, but there feels like there's a severe shortage of advisors in industry. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. And it was always going to happen. When you draw a line in the sand, and I'm not here to debate whether, again, I think the line was placed in the right area, but when you draw a line in the sand and say, look, you now have to be over this bar in order to continue to provide advice, then there's going to be a period of time where there's going to be a bit of a black hole left, right? Now, I would say, and if you want to become an advisor in Australia today, you are stepping into a golden age and a golden opportunity just through simple supply and demand, right? That brings so many opportunities. There was always going to be a period of time where there's going to have to be a bit of catch up. Now, are there enough people going through university and having aspirations of becoming an advisor? I'm not entirely sure. And it is in this period of time, it's to the detriment of the average Australian who might want to get advice, or you're always going to be able to get advice, but of course supply and demand might dictate you paying more for it. I hope that takes care of itself over a period of time, but it's unfortunately the situation, I think, is one we had to have. Otherwise you continue to have to accept a lower standard, and we don't want that.
Yeah. So on top of the regulatory changes there that you mentioned, technology has changed, new investment products have come to market. Before we started recording today, we were talking about AI and the possibilities of what that might bring to the industry.
Yeah.
Over your time, how have you found just the best ways to keep on track and keep on top of everything that's changing in the industry so you can always stay sort of close to the edge?
Look, it's not rocket science at the end of the day. You have to keep, your ear close to the ground. I think you have to continue to read into industry trends, take note of, certain industry publications, take note of pivotal podcasts. It's a huge form of media, right? People don't win elections through traditional media sources these days. They get on the podcast circuit. So
we've been trying to tell the major parties.
So all forms of media. I'm probably in a fortunate position as the managing director of Hewison Private Wealth, in that I have people around me, like a head of compliance, who while I'm very busy focused on the business and all the different elements, I've obviously got that person who is keeping their finger on the pulse as it relates to changes. Things like CPD, covers a broad range of areas, but a lot of it is industry updates and industry trends, and through membership of certain industry bodies, you would hope to get you know, what you require to make sure that you stay up to date and on, you know, and compliant and all those kinds of things.